Hey, Coach. Super excited you found us on YouTube in my messy basement. But let me tell you a couple things. First of all, go over and check out teachers.com for coaches who want to get better. That's the first thing. Second thing is make sure you subscribe. Go hit that little bell so every time you come on YouTube, you'll be able to find all of our stuff and subscribe. That is really important.
All right, welcome to Coach Unplugged. Cole, we've been trying to do this for a while, so I'm excited to do this. What I'm going to have you do is kind of introduce yourself and kind of tell your basketball journey, because I actually know this one probably a little bit more than the person. What was the last one I had on just before you was from Texas, I think. Anyway, so I know your basketball journey a little bit better than most, but if you could just kind of go through kind of how you got into basketball.
Mhm.
You don't have to go back to the days of Matt. I didn't know you went to Chavez. That I didn't know before I
Yeah,
read it.
I was in the first class when they opened the school. Yeah, I lived like 2 blocks away from it, and
What
and
year
then
did you What year did you graduate from high school?
2011.
Ooh, that was a good team. I had a really good team that year.
Yeah, I was when I lived in Madison. I was best friends with Jordan Frederick.
Jordan didn't go out.
No, I think because
Okay.
he played like through his junior year, right?
He did, and then he
Yeah.
wanted to focus on football. And then
Yeah.
before the state championship game, he sent me a good luck, coach. That was the biggest mistake I ever made, not coming out. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, well, sorry, Jordan. It's like he started for me, and it's like
Yep.
he was going to focus on football, kind of thing. It's like that's
Yep.
cool, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we ended up having probably, in my opinion, still the best high school basketball game at the state tournament. It's my opinion. That triple overtime win in
Oh,
2011.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that was the
everyone,
year we got hosed out of because they started that super sectional. That was the first year they went from 8 to 4. And then we had that super sectional. We had to have a neutral site at Oshkosh against Appleton East. And then so it wasn't too neutral. And then we got hosed in the last second. They didn't start the clock in time, and he got a shot off, and he
and
shouldn't
who
have.
who won that game? Who won that game?
Appleton East.
East. Okay.
Yeah. And we think, of course, it all could change, but as a team, we're like we could have had a real good shot at winning state that year, because obviously they went 3 in a row after that.
Right.
But it is what it is.
Yeah, that was a weird. Like who did we play? We played a Milwaukee school in Whitewater. I don't even remember it. That wasn't Hamilton. Riverside. We beat Riverside. We beat Riverside at Whitewater. It was weird. It was just because you know why? They know they messed up with going to.
Yep.
They know they messed up, so they tried to do this super sectional. Now they're back. It's 11 years later, and they're backpedaling now, thinking about adding 6 or 8.
Yep.
You know, it's like because you didn't, like we told you, it was like, why'd you mess with what was working?
Right. Yeah. Don't know.
I don't either, but that was wow, that was a great team. So you played we had youth, you played in our youth program then a little bit.
I mean, up through 4th grade. So 4th grade would have been my last year. So
right.
Yep. And then we moved out to Germantown and started in their youth program, and played all the way through high school. Obviously had some good success there. I think I lost 4 games in my whole high school career, maybe 6, something like that. That's a JV freshman all the way through, but had some good success there, and just fell in love with the game. And I honestly never was, even in high school, even in college at the start, because I went to play college football and college basketball at Concordia in Chicago. Even then, I didn't have like, ooh, I'm going to be a coach. Because I think if I did, I would have changed and I would have become a teacher, because obviously that's the easiest path in.
Right.
So hindsight, if I would have known earlier, paths would have changed. But so I didn't even know until I actually took a year off and went to CUW and asked Coach Showalter if I could kind of join the staff just to learn and see if I'd like it. And then, of course, that was the year we won our 3rd state championship in a row. And then I really fell in love with it. And I was like, okay, now this is kind of what we need to do. So then it was finding jobs that I can make that happen.
Right. So what do you do for a living?
So right now I work at a company, actually it's called AKA Custom Lids. So we make this is a leather patch. So we make custom leather patch hats. And then we're a brand new startup. I mean, I'm the first full-time employee other than the 2 owners. But but like previous to that, I worked, I subbed for a while at Germantown just to kind of make the scheduling work, because that works great. I tried to get into teaching. I actually got a business ed teaching job at Germantown and didn't go through because I don't have a license, but at least I got the interview. But now it's a matter of, okay, finding a career that you're cool with my schedule, because I got to be off at this time and this time from November to March.
You could still do it. You could, there's enough online things. You probably get a certification. It'd be more of the student teaching probably would be the hardest part.
Right. And I've looked down those avenues. But then I got this job and I'm like, it pays better than teachers do. I was like,
amen. So I'm like, I don't even know if I have them. I'm like a baseball. I mean, I literally probably own 600 baseball hats. I'm like, I got an addiction with baseball hats. So that what's the name of the company again?
It's called AKA Custom Lids.
AKA Custom Lids. Okay. Do you guys have a website? I'll put it in the show notes down below.
Yeah. It's akacustomlids.com.
Okay. AKA customlids.com. Okay. And what's the value proposition? Like, what do you guys do? What makes you different than anybody else?
So we customize in leather patch hats. So like this is a Cudahy C and bull, so it's white leather, and then I painted it purple. Whatever's etched out will stick. The paint will stick to that, not the leather. And obviously we do a lot of stuff. Like our big client is Old Smoky down in Tennessee, the big moonshine distillery.
Right.
We have Zerns, but we do a lot of like construction work or plumbing and all those kind of companies that when they get a job done, they want to hand out a hat instead of a business card.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So we do a lot of, we're doing really well. We're constantly stacked up, and I mean, we're overflowed in work. But we also do like pint glasses, like we can etch out of pint glasses, or like the Yeti cups. We can etch a logo into there.
So have you had supply chain issues?
Oh yeah. We have technically like 18,000 hats in stock, but we only have like 4,000 actually with us, because 11,000 are stuck on boats or stuck in shipping containers. So yeah, and we don't know when they're coming. We just got hats in Friday that were ordered in August of last year.
I don't think that's going to get better anytime soon either.
Nope. So we're actually waiting on 3,600 of our own hats, because we use Richardson, who's a big snapback kind of, and they are a big wholesaler, but we're getting our own hats shipped from China.
You almost got to find a distributor in the US, like someone that makes hats in the US. Does anybody make hats in the US?
That I don't know. I know ours are getting made in China and they're getting shipped via plane. So they're going to get here in 7 to 10 days versus boat is like anywhere from 30 to 120 days. So it's a shipping nightmare right now. Yeah. Right.
That's why I'm saying it's like almost like Apple with their supply chain is building. You almost got to build something here in the States so you know you're going to get it.
Right.
Just because interesting. Anyway, sorry, it has nothing to do with basketball people, but again, it's a good addiction to have, I guess, is baseball hats is like, yeah. Post COVID, I other than game days, I wear a hat to school every day.
Well, that's cool.
I don't care. Like again, fire me. I don't care. I'll go fishing.
Nice position to be in.
Yeah, I don't care. Fire me. I'm wearing a baseball hat. The kids can wear a hat. I'm wearing a hat. Like whatever. I don't care. Like I don't do it on a game day, but any other day, I got a hat on. Like, I don't know. So keep going. So in Germantown, so then worked with Showald. So how did you end up where you are now then?
So then I actually went back to Concordia, Chicago for my senior year, just finished out playing. And then Steve Martin got the job from Mark Adams, who had it for a year because he was on Showalter's staff. For 2015, and then Steve left for Lindenwood, and then Mark Adams got the job for a year, and then gave it to Steve Martin, and he was like, I need a freshman coach.
And why did Adams, Adams just said, I'll do it for a year, just as he didn't want it long term, did he?
No, I don't even think he wanted it really at all. But I think Germantown was like, hey, we like, you're Mark Adams, like you have a lot of success, and he was like, no, we want you, and he said, I'll do it. I don't know if he said I'll do it for a year, or he just said okay. like reluctantly, and then Steve Martin was his head assistant, and he really felt then it was time for Martin to get it, and kind of issued him in.
Yeah. Okay. And he's
then
been there ever since. Yeah. No.
Well, he was there until 2019, the 20 right before COVID ended that year, shut off the tournament. That was Martin's last year.
Okay.
So then again, he tried to get me the job at Germantown, didn't work out. So I took the year off because I saw obviously what was happening. I was like, I don't even know if there'll be a season. I'm not going to start a job during this. And then waited one more year and got the job at Cudahy, and we're off running.
And so are you, where size wise is your team in relation to the other teams in your conference? Are you the biggest? Are you the smallest? I don't know that answer.
No, so we're in the Woodland, and we're in the Woodland East, which is competition wise is the lesser of the two. Unfortunately, well, fortunately for us. But I think all of us, except for South Milwaukee is like 1,100.
Okay.
But now it's still D2, unfortunately. But now with that new promotion, they're trying to get them up in D1. But the rest of us are right around the 700, 800 mark. So it's not, attendance isn't really a big deal as far as disadvantages.
So what's the biggest difference between going to a school that's, I don't even know what Germantown is, a couple thousand to
1,400,
1,500?
Yeah.
What's the biggest difference you saw in the movement between those kind of schools?
Just in basketball terms is the turnout. I mean, the year before I got there, we didn't have a JV team. We only had a JV2 team, or it might have been flip-flop. I think it was no JV2 team, JV team, because that freshman class at the time only had 2 kids come out. Last year I didn't have a JV team because I only had 2 sophomores come out. So I had 2 sophomores and 8 freshmen played the JV2 team. And then again, I tell the kids all the time at Germantown, there were 60 kids would try out for freshmen, because there's usually 2 youth teams, and that's 20 kids, 24 kids. And then you get the kids that just think they can make it.
Right.
So you get 60 kids trying out for freshmen, and then you get 40 try out for JV. And so you're never short on numbers. Right now I got to email all, like the whole 8th grade class. Hey, who's interested? Come show up to stuff.
Right.
Where it's and I got to beg people to show up to things, except my varsity kids and a good chunk of the JV kids. They're really good about attendance, but just trying to get people in the building so we've got something in the future. Right now it's the future numbers wise isn't great.
And do you think is that been historical, or I'm just trying to dig into the?
No, I don't think the only having like 1 team at the lower levels is historical, but I know it was, again, the year before I got there, so 2020. So it very well could have been the COVID thing. Like people just didn't.
I'm telling you, I think COVID hurt.
Like I said, we had 2 kids out of that whole freshman class even try out.
Yeah. I think this is, again, and I run a pretty successful program, and I've even seen my youth numbers drop. I just think, I don't know what it is. I haven't put my finger on it, but it's like I don't know what they're doing, to be honest with you, but I just don't. I think it was a machine kind of running, and then all of a sudden the machine stopped. And when you start up the machine again, it's like, ooh, like
dust off, and
I'm gonna go play Call of Duty or take up curling, or I don't know, like
very well could be that.
So I've noticed it in our youth too. I just think the numbers, I think at least in all of Madison, I think the numbers are down.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they are in Milwaukee too. I'm not talking about the elite kids. I'm not talking about the guys that get hooped.
Yep. It's just the kids that, again,
6 through 10.
I would have 60 kids come out, and it's like, then you had your fair pick of kids, like where now it's almost to the point where like you're trying out. Okay. You're on the team.
Right. It's like 6 through 10 is what some of those kids are not, and those are the ones you win with. Yeah. Yep. It's like, those are the ones you make that step up. It's like, I think about my state championships. It's like, the starting 5 are obviously important, but it was usually somebody that I didn't expect.
Yep.
Like number 7 came in and gave me some great minutes.
Yep.
And when we've lost, it's been the same way. It's like, who the hell is that kid? And it's like their 7th best player comes in and hits 2 threes. It's like,
yeah, it's a kid you have a sentence about in the scouting report, and then that's who comes in and hits 4 threes. And it's like, where did you come from?
And I'm not sure those kids are participating. And I think it's almost a national thing. So tell me what happened. So you got the job, and then what? What was your pivot at that point? Like offense, defense. What did you think?
I got the job,
and I mean, I don't know, but you probably can't run Germantown stuff there exactly the same. Maybe you can.
No, I mean, but even our last couple of years at Germantown, we weren't running swing and our Showtime, which was our fast break. I do run a version of Showtime as far as our fast break, but no, it was more just in today's game that the swing just doesn't work. It's too predictable. It's too easily guardable. So I pivoted in, and my first thing was just getting us doing something in the summer. Because these kids all tell me still to this day, like they barely had open gyms in summers. They never were in summer leagues or anything. So I scheduled 3 open gyms a week just to get people in the gym. And they were all like thankful. We've never done this before. Like we never had this much gym time. And I'm like, that I would have 3 a week was minimum when I was at Germantown. That's how I grew up. Like, got to play to win. Got to play more often. So it was just getting kids in the gym. And then I fell in love with the pick and roll continuity when I saw my players, because I had some good kids in pick and rolls. I really wanted to accentuate their abilities, but just as a group, kids could not grasp the bigs lifting up, the opposite big lifting up when the pick and roll is happening, and then the ball switches. They just could not grasp it. So then we went, and it's funny, I've seen it now after on Teach Hoops, like you're running that read and react. And we run a very similar version of that. I got it from Joe Rux at Brookfield East, because we played them twice a year. It's a devastating thing to guard. So I was like, well, let's try.
So I love Joe. I think he's one of the best coaches in the state.
Yep.
I'll be honest. One of the best coaches in the state. He is. They said they literally could call moving screen every time down the court. His kids set moving screens all the time.
Yeah, of course.
All the time.
That's when I was playing them at freshman JV. I would go to the rest before the game and say, hey, they're going to move on every screen, just so you know. Like, keep an eye out for it.
Right.
And I don't know what he teaches them, but they never call it.
I know. And then it's like, I don't
know what he's teaching them in their practice sessions, because they don't call moving screens ever. I don't know if he just teaches them how to do it at the last second or what, but as far as the
have
scheme
you seen? Okay, so we got to dive into this, because I think this is important for everybody. So you've watched more Brookfield East than I probably have. Yeah. Can you figure out what they're doing and how they're doing it? Like,
I have an inside man.
Okay. And but I'm talking about that. We can talk about off the air, but I'm talking about more about the actual setting the screens.
The setting the screens, that I don't know. So I don't know if it's like,
is it a hop at the end? Is it something that, because it's like they are moving.
Yeah. I don't know if they're waiting, if the screener's reading just as much as the guy coming off the screen is reading, so like he's waiting at the last second, and if he slices up through the middle of the screen, he's kind of throwing that shoulder in, and like you said, maybe hopping over that little half a foot to hit a shoulder. I don't know what he's teaching them or how he's teaching them, but they're amazing at screens. Some of them are moving, but they're amazing at setting screens, and slipping the screens is their biggest thing. But I don't know what he teaches them, but I wish I could be a fly on the wall in some of his practices.
I know. I
just want to see his demeanor in practice, because he's a funny guy on the sideline. So I want to see like his demeanor in practice, and then I want to see how he's teaching these screens.
I got it. When I'm retired, I'm gonna hire him and say, hey, I want you to do your practice. I'll buy it from you for Teach Hoops. It's because there's something. He's that good of a coach. I swear to God.
And his teams are always incredible shooters.
Yeah,
always. So I know
it was like that. It was like that around Collie too.
Yeah, he actually applied for the Germantown job, and for whatever reason, Germantown didn't hire him.
Really?
Yeah, even Steve Martin was like, I don't know why they picked me over him.
Is he a teacher? I don't know if
Yeah.
Joe's a teacher. Is Joe
History.
a teacher?
Yeah.
History.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's
I want to say it was something along the lines they didn't have a position in the building. I think that might have been what it was, but yeah, he interviewed at Germantown.
So how will they be next year?
Who?
East.
I think just because it's Joe's team, they'll be good.
But they won't be. They'll be like they were this year, probably.
Probably.
How will Central be?
They're gonna dip just because they're losing Andrew Rohde, first team All-State kid. So they're losing him. So they
got Doherty, right? They got Doherty, but yeah.
But I mean, when you're losing a 28, 29,
he was a real deal. He was a real deal. What about Sussex? How will Sussex be? Sorry, people that are listening to this. I'm going through my sectional right now. You can hold on for a second. So Coach and I are just talking. How will Sussex be?
They're losing a couple kids as well.
Hey, Coach, I'm glad you're liking the video. Hit like down below. That helps us a ton, being found on YouTube. Subscribe. Also, hit the little bell up above if you want to get notified. We put a new video up every day. We're breaking some of the great stuff down right now. Also, go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better.
But we scrimmaged them last year at Muskego, and they've got some good young kids.
I think they're going to be. They are. Yeah, they're a little different, too. It's like, there's no one like in our sectional that's scary. I think LaFolle and Middleton in our section will be really good next year too. But it's like there were teams like the Germantown teams that won those three, or there's just been some scary, like Central would have won if pandemic hadn't happened again. Like there were some scary teams, like and I've coached some of those.
Falls could have, no pandemic.
Yeah, Falls could have. I'm just saying, like, I've had some of those scary teams too. It's like, you're going to have to play really well to beat us, and you can, but it's like, I don't see those scary teams, at least in our level, D1.
Not really. Not in the Milwaukee general area. I mean,
I think De Pere will be one of the top teams in the state.
Yeah. And Neenah and Kimberly, they're always good.
Yeah.
That Fox Valley's always really good.
Yeah. They lost a lot, though. Neenah lost a lot, I think.
Yeah. I think that 4 of their 5 starters were seniors.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. I'm just saying, and they were scary too. I mean, it's just like you always have one or two of those scaries. It just seems like there's been less of them since the pandemic. It's like, I don't know if people are spreading out.
They very well could be. But there's no more like dominant teams anymore.
Yeah, like, well, think about it. Stevens Point won 3 in a row. Germantown won 3 in a row. We won 3 out of 7. It's like it was those
Dominican
teams,
won 4 in a row in that stretch.
Right. There was just, you don't see that quite as much anymore. And
I think Pewaukee's going to win 3 in a row.
Yo, Pewaukee's good.
I think they're gonna win next year, and they could even win the year after that, because that Nick Janowski's going to be a senior the year after. They probably win their 3rd in a row. So they're
what division?
They're 2.
They're 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're now will they be 2 in the new thing?
Yeah.
How big are they? Will be.
They're like 780 or 800, something low 800. So but it's surprising how, I mean, they just won state in football. They won state basketball. They're gonna win state baseball. So like it's just like a school of 700 is good at everything.
Yeah. Well, it's just like you get lightning in a bottle.
Yep.
I'm just telling you, it's like I had that for like 10 years. You just had, it was just like I could have.
I grew up in the definition of it at Germantown. I mean, we had our starting lineups for how many years where nobody was shorter than 6'3". Like it was just, you don't get that. That's luck.
That's just, it's just, you just get lightning in a bottle. And it's like, you just like, my mom could have coached some of my teams. Like, swear to God. I mean, it's just, I'm real. I'm
right.
I just, and the best advice one of my coaches said was, and could we have won more? Yes. But he says, get out of their way, Steve. Like, and Shoei did that. Just get out of their way. Like, let them do what they got to do. You can take care of that stuff in practice, but you can like Pewaukee that coach, he just lets them go. Like they're just going. Like, here we go. Let's play.
Yeah, he's good. He's good too.
Yeah, he's very good. Very good. What do you think the hardest thing to teach is or coach at a practice?
I'd probably say communication, especially defensively. I don't know if it's getting worse because of the kids. They're also video game centric and computer centric, but it's just gotten worse. But it's you get on them, and then game time rolls around and you just don't hear a word or whatever it is. So it's a constant battle of getting them to communicate with each other. And it's like, I'm not doing it to hear your voices. I don't like your voices. I just want to win, and I want to see you guys have some success. And we're not gonna do it unless you guys communicate. Who's helping who? Who's got which gap? Who's in which position? I got your help. It's a constant battle of getting them to do it. And it's not just where I'm at. It's been at every stop I've been at. It's just a constant battle of getting it. So but I think the only way to do it is we're running if you're not talking in practice. So if we're doing a drill and I don't hear all 5 voices, we're on the line. And
do you think there's a correlation between that and the games then?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm trying to trust me. I have the same exact issue. So I'm just trying to problem solve with you. Like, how do we help? Like, yeah, I tell them, here's what I tell them. I say the most important game that you ever play in, you will not hear your teammates unless you are literally screaming.
Right.
I go, what do you mean? I go, it's going to be in a gym. It's not going to be at the state tournament. So can we argue that the most important tournament game is the state championship? Yes. And will you hear them in there? Yes.
Right.
But I'm saying you don't play in that game unless you win the sectional finals. In the sectional finals, it's going to be 3,000 people in a gym that's about 125 degrees. And you are, every time there's a basket scored, you're not going to hear, you're going to hear nothing. Like I have literally berated officials for 30 minutes and they have heard 0 that I've said to them.
Right.
Because they can't hear me.
Right.
Like they can't team me because they can't hear me.
Right.
So if they can't hear me, you can't hear me because they're 2 feet from me. Like, so that's what I try to convey to them. But it's like, you're right. How do you correlate the practice thing to the game thing? I think is a really hard pivot.
I actually had a little bit more success communication wise when we went to, I'd say probably 80-20. We went 2-3, 80-2-3 and 20 man. And it might have been more than that in certain games. But I felt like they had much better communication in our 2-3 for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe because the calls are easier. But we actually had really good communication and hands were pointing, fingers were pointing in our 2-3, where I think in man, there's so many things you can say or could say. So I don't know, maybe they get held up on what to say. That I don't know, but
that's what I've been working on is like a terminology, like say these are the 5 things you should be saying, like help, screen left, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
So they know what to say. You're right. My matchup like 3-2 or 2-3 tends to be a better communicator. That's interesting. I wonder why that is, but I think, you're right. It's probably the drops and the amount of space that they have to move is probably less. I would agree.
Yep. And I think you're just not responsible. You're responsible for, again, an area, a zone. So I think maybe just that you're more comfortable and that you're not going to be moving all over the court. You got to make sure your eyes on your guy and this. So I just think it's a little less responsibility for them. So they feel more comfortable communicating.
What's the most common thing in your league? Like offense and defense wise?
Defense is man.
We're in Wisconsin. For people that know, we're in Wisconsin, and the Bennetts and the Ryans are still like.
Yep. So it's the defense is again going to what the pack man or the pack line man is the most common defense. Offensively it varies. Some teams run a lot of sets, and then just kind of it's more of a 4 out 1 in dribble drive, and then there's not a lot of continuity anymore though. Like we run a continuity, whereas there's not much continuity.
You do? What do you run for continuity?
I guess I shouldn't say it's the continuity. I consider it continuity as far as teaching it, but we run the read and react.
Okay, yeah. I consider continuity more like the swinger, or flex and stuff. And it's funny, I won state titles with flex.
Yep. Yeah, like we've talked about, Germantown won 3 in a row running the swing. So it's
right. They could have run anything, and I could have run anything. The thing is, the one thing about that offense is I ran it because I wanted to take away freedom. Like I had such good players like Vander and Wesley and Jerron. Like if I just let them go, it was going to be like I needed to be able to put them in spots, and that was the easiest way for me to put them in spots.
Yep.
That it's like half the time we didn't run it the way we were supposed to run it, but it was like at least they were in the proper locations, and we had people posting up, and we had this and this. But yeah, I think it was the same with Shoei. You could have run anything with that group. It didn't really matter. It's like
right. Most of the time it was transition, get a couple passes, and somebody dribble drives and attacks the basket anyway. That's usually what it was.
Right. It wasn't like come down. Well, and I was just talking to another coach too, and this is something to think about. If you think about the game, it's 4 spots. It's offense and defense.
Mm-hmm.
It's transition to offense and transition to defense.
Right.
And we spent our time on the first 2 and not as much time on the last 2.
Yep.
And that's where Shoei was really good, because his transition from defense to offense was really good.
Yeah, I'd say that was anywhere from 30 to 40% of our practice every day was get the ball out of the net and go.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're good at it, it's like,
yep.
And that's with my team coming up, my next year or 2, is that's what we're going to spend. I mean,
us too.
We're going to work on that. We're going to work on that transition to defense and transition to offense.
Yep.
And we're going to, I'm going to knock on some wood if people can hear that. If we stay healthy, I'll have the guards to pressure for, 36 minutes.
Right.
And then I'm going to have the guards and the offense to be able to push the ball up the court. Like,
yep.
I mean, my last state tournament team, when I had Chris in 2017, when I had Chris Knight, we were in the 40s. We had to be, because it was like, that was just, we couldn't do that. We only had 6 players. Like,
I'm all guard. So we have to get out and run. I don't have a quote unquote big man this year. So
I'm reading a book right now, the physics of basketball, which is really intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, what's your theory on rebounding? Because that's a point where I think people don't spend, rebounding drills don't work.
No.
We've
tried.
They don't work. Work. I'm just telling people they don't work. But I've always had pretty good rebounding teams, but I'm a little smaller, like you said. There's some physics to where that ball is going to bounce.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm going to spend, it's going to be a point of emphasis. We don't get out of school till end of next week, so I can't do anything till the end of next week.
Us too, yeah. The 10th is our.
Yeah. So, but once that happens, it's like, I think rebounding is one of those points I think we can get really good in our league at. Like, we're just going to come at you and we're going to crash the offensive glass, and go ahead, get the rebound and go. Let's go. Here we go. Fine. Right. But we're just going to come at you. Like, we're going to be, because
we're gonna be much heavier to the offensive glass this year, and then again, just trying to, with our lack of size. My tallest guy is going to be 6'2", maybe 6'3".
What do you do? What did Shoei do on a defensive rebound? Did he have to get it to his son? I mean, how did that work? Or was it just
Z? His son was the right side, up the right side. So our showtime was always up the right. So it was a J cut from our point guard, whatever side he was on. He was in a J cut to get a nice momentum, and our bigs were passing it up to our point guard.
What happens if they couldn't get it to him?
You had to get it to him. I mean, obviously we had other.
Well, you had a 6'10" kid. I mean, yeah.
So
like, will you run that with your group?
I do it where they don't have to be up the right side. So if the point guards on the right side already, it doesn't make any sense to have, because Shoei would have us loop all the way around, make a J cut so we have momentum going up the right sideline. Whereas I'm like, if he's on the right side, just J cut to the left sideline. And then it's just to get the ball up as fast as you can to that wing. And then you're hitting the trailer, and that's where we got a lot of our baskets. We're hitting that trailer. If the 6'8" guy at the trailer couldn't shoot it, he was going to dump it to a high low to the 7-footer on the block.
Right. And you had some advantages on that.
Yeah.
But it's so it's go to the corner, it's J cut, go to the corner, and then what?
It's J cut. It's actually like free throw line extended. So you want to get the ball up by the opposite coach's line. That was our little line that we had to.
Yeah.
So you're throwing a long pass. So we had to get up faster so the other team couldn't, obviously, because they know what's coming, but we ran so fast you couldn't deny that pass. And then we're looking for post touches on that right side block first. And then the point guard swings through to the opposite corner. After he makes that pass, we're looking trail, shot, trail, high, low. And then if none of that's open, then we're getting into the offense. Yeah. So we're, like I said, I'm just going to do that, but it doesn't matter side. Whereas when I was at Germantown, it was right side, or like you were
So
going.
so it basically went J cut, corner, trail, don't have anything get into your offense.
Yeah. Yep. I'm gonna work a little of like Pop's weak side motion into my transition this year. So our one will swing opposite, and then he'll push down the opposite wing, and he'll set a cross screen for the guy on the block to maybe get a post touch. And then the trailer is going to set a pin down screen for the opposite wing to shoot straight up. And then we can maybe have a shot there. And then that works naturally into our 5-out or our 4-out 1-in that we're going to run this year.
I love that. I think that would work in our league. I really do.
Yeah, if like I said, I spent so much time in high school working on it as a player that's why we were really good at it.
Right.
Whereas this year was my first year, I had so much to put in. I mean, it's my fault, but I didn't get enough time to put it in this year. So it was just like we weren't as good transitionally.
So going back to my initial theory, if you're working on those 4 things, that's transition from defense to offense. That should be a big chunk of your practice.
Right.
I got to think.
Like I said, we're going from, again, what the kids tell me. They kind of ran a dribble drive last year, but they never can tell me any of the rules. Like before I got there, they can never tell me any of the rules or any of the like positioning. They couldn't tell me any of it because I just don't know if it was taught perfectly or well. So I had to like take them from scratch and put in they were coming with nothing in my eyes. So I was like, all right, I got to put in an offense, and then we were struggling defensively, and we had to go to 2-3 due to
so let's talk off season. So what do you, because I'll tell you what my thought is. What are you doing come June 10th or whenever school gets out? What are you trying to get out of the June? I don't know how many of your guys play in July. I lose my guys, a lot of my guys.
I'm going to lose a chunk of them.
So first of all, if the WIA listens to my podcast, which they don't, first of all, horrible organization, and they need to be like nuked. But anyway, I don't care. They hate me. The date should be June 1. Like there's been kids, there have been like the private schools have been out of school for 3 weeks.
Right. Well,
they get longer. How is that fair?
Yeah, we have summer league Monday on the 6th. It's our first summer league game, and I can't coach in it because the kids aren't
coach either. We've already played. We played in the We're playing in the Franklin one. I can't coach in it.
Yeah. It's.
Then I can't coach on Monday. Okay. Like what am I supposed to do? Like,
yeah, it should be June 1 to July 31st, whatever. But
it is the dumbest thing ever, and it's not fair. They talk about being fair and equal rules. It's not equal rules. What are you talking about? We get out of school June 10th, and they've had 3 extra weeks than me.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like, and I'm not getting anything out of July.
No,
that's the funny part. Like, what do you think I'm getting out of July? July is like a joke. Like after the 4th of July, I just trying to get them in and get shots up and maybe play a little bit. That's all I'm trying to do. After that, like whatever.
Right.
And then football starts August 1 or whatever. So
yeah, I luckily don't have much in the way of football because our football attendance is really low for our school as well. So, but I don't have any basketball players that are like, I'm not risking the injury in football. So I don't lose any kids to football. So I get a little bit more fall as far as just getting them in the gym.
Yeah. And I can get them in the gym and stuff and shooting and stuff like that. But I'm not a big believer in fall league. I'm really not.
I wasn't either. And we did it last year and I enjoyed it. Cause I think it got us kind of more into cause I didn't have football players. I didn't have May or July. So it's like, I want to get them in organized, doing something. So I had obviously that, but the parents and the kids liked it. So we're going to do it again this year. But I think it's more of just kind of like we said, getting them in the gym and doing whatever. But my June this year is going to be spent a lot on those gray areas that I didn't get a ton of time to spend in the season.
Which is what?
The transition stuff, really getting those minute details. We struggled a lot with baseline out of bounds. Our kids just could not remember them for the life of them. So I want to really pound those into their heads in the summer.
Okay.
So that when we come in the season, I don't have to spend, I want to use summer as the install.
They're gonna forget that from June to November, but
they very well could, but at least if they've seen it before,
yeah,
then it's the teaching of it isn't 2 weeks, it's a day.
Right.
So I just want to use the summertime as the stuff is installed, but it's more of the refining it. So then when November, 16th this year, November 16th hits, we can get out and go. We can get on the ground and run instead of, because we got a game 11 days later. So instead of spending those 2 weeks installing something and breaking it down one-on-ones and 2-on-2s, it's all right. Now let's really get into the fine details of how do we counter this defensive action on defense? How do we counter this offensive set? Those kind of things. Whereas
I like that. I like that too. Yeah. I think, and for people listening, I think the key is get shots up, become better shooters.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing you can do in the summer. And then we use it like our man defense was horrible. I mean, the pandemic killed us. Like, because literally this year I coached everyone I coached this year. I'd never coached before, ever. Yeah. So that's why I took it till Christmas to get decent, because I had to teach them everything. We couldn't play man because they didn't even know what arm to put up. Like, it's like, it was crazy land. Like,
we couldn't run man. We couldn't run man because we were fouling. Like,
it was just we were just so far behind. So we had to play zone more than I necessarily wanted to. So we're gonna get better at pressure. We're gonna get better at our man defense. The rest of the stuff, I get it. I can maybe do that. But yeah, it's like that's what I want. I just want, I want to work on those specific things, because I think that will help a lot.
Yeah,
to be honest with you. Just as far as getting them better and like get to the helpline, we're gonna push baseline too. We're gonna, because we run the funnel.
I do. Yeah.
We run the funnel, so we push baseline, but then when we funnel, we don't let you reverse it, which messes people up to know tomorrow. It's just like they don't know what to do, because all offenses want to move left to right or right to left.
Right.
And when you don't let them do that, it freaks them out. Like, you know what it does? It speeds them up. Yep. Just enough. It speeds them up.
A little bit of panic. Yeah.
Yep. And it's like, and then we'll trap in that short corner, and it just like, it'll be perfect. So that's what we're going to work on this summer, kind of working on that funnel, and then work on our just straight, man. I like pushing middle, especially if you got a big, and I got a decent big, but I think the baseline is just so much easier to.
It's an extra defender. That's what I tell the kids as you have one other defender, and if you're pushing the right way, you also have the sideline as another defender. So you've got two extra defenders with your guy who we call it the stop sign, who should be at the stop sign.
Right.
Again, that's the big struggle, is getting the guys there.
They don't get over there. They don't, Yeah.
They all think they're 7 foot and can go from the block to opposite block to block the shot, where it's like, you can't get under the hoop, be able to look up through the net, and it's 2 steps.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, I know. And it's trust me, the pandemic messed them up, like all that stuff, because they lost a year of really good teaching. You can see in the classroom too. It's like they're all behind in everything.
Yep.
So if you can close that gap, that's where it's going to be better. So you basically, if you go the 10th, you got like 2 weeks, you got 2-3 weeks with them, and that's it, right?
So I'm gonna get my 5 contact days in pretty quick.
I'm using 2. I'm playing in that thing in Appleton for the WIA's doing. That open. So I'm gonna use 2 of my 5 in that. Take one of my assistants up, and we'll coach them in that. I don't remember that is. That's the end of June. I think it's the 26th.
Yeah, something like that. I wasn't gonna have enough kids for any tournaments this year. I asked around, so I was like, we'll play in our summer league, and I'll use my contact days as practice, basically.
Yeah. And it's like, and for people that do that, like some of these places are crazy. Like Texas, you can they can have them during the school day kind of. It's crazy land. Like,
there's a lot of states that it's just like, if you want it, if your kids are willing to work every day, you can have them.
I know. You got to go into those things knowing it's summer though too. That was the hardest part for me. It's like it's different. Like I just got to make sure they kind of know what we're doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like it's not November 16th.
Right. Let's get them used to the terminology. Let's get them used to the big picture, and we'll work on the small stuff in November.
Right. Well, yeah, we'll work on that specific stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think the hardest thing for you to teach is? You specifically?
I'd say now that I'm really running this is setting screens, like how to really be in the position, again, like we talked earlier, not move and not throw that hip or that shoulder in at the last second. But just getting kids to want to hit the defender and not just, well, I was in the way and he didn't hit me. So it's like looking and seeking for that contact, and our phrase was crave the contact, and I got to keep putting it in their heads is crave that contact. But again, it's difficult. I don't know what drill to put them in to make them want to put their chest into that guy's shoulder. I don't know.
Right. And I have the guy coming off the screen when it's not a ball screen. When I have him come off the screen, I have him pause at the screen.
I use that as a tactic. I don't have it as an every time, but maybe
it helps because they only do it about half the time anyway. So I tell them they should do it every time, and then they only do it half the time. But it lets them read. It lets them read that, and it you know, are you going to slip? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? I think it gives them that little space of.
Yeah, we pause when we get to what we call the decision point, which is that spot halfway between the free throw or the lane line extended and the 3-point line on the volleyball line. We call that our decision point. So they get to that spot and they kind of turn to the ball and see which read they're going to make, whether it's the slip, straight cut, or curl. So I guess that we can consider that our pause. We're not doing it like at the screener, but we are pausing for a half second just to kind of see what read we want to make, obviously based on the defense.
What does your practice look like? I'm always intrigued with people's practices.
So it's, again, we start with that 4-minute shooting, get our dynamic stretching in. And then we get shots up to start. I want to start the day getting some conditioning in via shot. So whether it's, Jones shooting, which I have in there as my favorite drill, or we do 4-minute shoot, like a different 4-minute shooting. I call it, I don't remember what I call it, but that's just 3 guys and we're constantly sprinting from 3-line to 3-line, making a pass just to get some conditioning and shots up.
Right.
Then we'll break it down, whether it's our pick and roll coverage defense or getting that ball, like we talked about, getting up that ball up the right sideline as fast as we can. Work on some post touches. I don't have many post guys, but I obviously don't want them to be clueless when they get the ball in the block. So we work on some block stuff. And then we really get into competition. So it's a lot of 5-on-5 half court. I almost never do full court in practice because I hate the way it turns out when you're trying to work on your offense and it just becomes a track meet.
Right.
So it's almost always half court.
That's one place I'm going to pivot to is I'm going to try to I think I'm going to have a board too. We're going to have a competition board. Something where because my guys just eat that up and it's so much better when it's competitive for boys.
Right. We keep track of like, so in our half court games, if it's defensive emphasis, if we're working on our 11, which is our man, if it's defensive emphasis, you got to get 3 stops in a row before you can get out. And then where you switch, or the offense gets 2 points for an offensive rebound, just to kind of, again, emphasize that rebounding aspect. So we track so many different things. It's not just stop, score, stop, score. And a lot of times, like I'll do points for stops, not points for scoring. So if you want to score, so you can get on defense and get your stops. But everything from, I'd probably say an hour and 15 left in practice, everything is competing, whether it's half court, whether it's 5-on-5, 3-on-3, whatever. But we're really, again, trying to burn that flame of the competition because that's what the end goal is to be really good in the competition. So.
No, I love that. I love that aspect of, just finding a way to do that. So do you have any questions for me? That's a long pause.
Well, it's like, how long do we have?
Well, yeah.
Um,
Well, you and I can always get on another call, but I'm just
yeah.
saying, if you have one that you would think would be interesting, whatever, we can always talk. That's not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think right away is because we're kind of running a similar offense.
Hey coach, I hope you're enjoying the video. If you are, hit like down below. That helps us be found everywhere. Also subscribe and then hit the little bell up above, and that will help you get notified every day when we put a new basketball coaching video up every day of the year. It'll help you a ton. And then go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better.
Taking some concepts, a good chunk of your concepts from your assistant when you had that PowerPoint presentation. You saw, ran through that. So I did take a ton, but we're running very similar things. It's again how to keep, but again, I saw your interview with Rick because you asked the same question: is how do you keep them from doing the same action? Because ours is just that pass that wing, and we're running that single on that backside
all the time. Same thing. Always.
So it's so again, I don't know if you have the answer to that because you asked the same question to Rick, but it's like how do we get different actions? And like we have a flare an option to run a flare, and I can never get the kids to run it.
They don't. So here's what I'm going to tell you. When we get off the air, I'll give you what we're going to do this year.
Okay.
Sorry, people. I'm still coaching. I'm not sharing that with you. We've tweaked it a little bit, like just to Do you have guys? So we're doing two different things. Do you have guys that can dribble attack too?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'll off the air. I'll share that with you.
Okay.
I'll share that with you.
All right.
Okay. Anything else? So that's easy. That's an easy solve. I'll solve that for you. That's an easy solve. Because you're right. What happens is they pass and they do the same cut every time. It's crazy. It's like
no, we're pretty good as far as mixing up our read off of that screen. We don't always do a straight cutter. We're pretty good in that aspect, but just the fact that
it's will never go for the defense. It's too easy for the defense.
Right.
It's
like we have an option also. I don't know if you guys do. We pass that wing, but instead of going set that away screen, you can go set a ball screen. They never do that. They never set the flare screen. So it got to the point where I had to put my best shooter when he was up top. I had to say we're setting a flare screen for him.
Yeah.
It helped because he was a terrible screener. So it helped that I got him out of that position and got him into the flare.
It's hard because the game is so like I told Rick this it's like, Rick, man, I don't like he's got 77 layers or whatever.
Oh, I know.
It's like, what are you talking about? I can't get him to do 2 layers.
I have 10. I have 10. Right. It's not crazy, but it's like still I'm like, are they gonna remember these 10?
No, they don't. It's the rule of 3. So they can remember 3 things. They can't remember more than 3.
And I wouldn't even call I have 10 layers. I wouldn't even call each one a layer. It's just a different option of what you can do. And then once you mumble them all together, then it's probably 3 things, 4 things.
That's all. And they'll still do one of them 90% of the time. Yeah. You're right.
So that was our struggle all year.
And it was different when we were slower pace with the 2017 team. It worked because they knew the shot and who should take it and when they should take it. It's more when you have more talent. That's the issue. All right, so I can answer that. Do you have any other ones? I got some more. I got a couple more questions for you, but I'll just
go for it.
Okay. Do you have something that's happened in your career that a listener would like to learn from, a success, a failure, something in your career that would be teachable for another coach?
I know this last year we were playing a team and team we should not have even been competing with. Like we should have been far and away game over with 10 minutes left. I should have been able to put my 3rd string in. But we were competing with them and the kids played down, but I left the game with, I think, 2 timeouts left. So it's just really like, because again, I love Kerr and Pop and how they just kind of let the guys play through rough stretches. And at that game especially, it eats at me still. I let them play through too many rough stretches. And then we had a situation where I had my player kind of come by me and we're going to call timeout. and the ref didn't hear me screaming right next to his face to call timeout, and then my kid looked to like call timeout, and they stole the ball and went down and got an and one. So it's like learning from that mistake, telling the ref beforehand, hey, I'm going to call timeout here, running up this court. But then just if you don't use your timeouts, you lose them. And in that game, we lost them, and we unfortunately lost the game. So it's just, I got to myself get more in tune with calling timeouts more often, or using all of them.
I think there's a couple theories with this. So, when you have teams like Shoei's teams, he didn't need his timeouts.
No. And at that we were playing quarters, so you had that extra. You had those 2 extra timeouts basically.
Right. So so I think when you're dealing for the young coaches, I think when you're dealing with young teams or inexperienced teams, timeouts are. I tell kids timeouts are like gold.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, I'll give a secret away. I can give this secret away. We don't. There's a scrum ball or loose ball. We don't call a timeout ever.
I've heard you say that, yeah.
And the reason is those are too valuable come down the stretch.
Yeah.
Like I need those timeouts to stop the clock. We're down 3 need, people have lost games against us because they didn't have any timeouts left.
Well, and the crazy thing is I won a game this year because I saved timeouts. We were tied and I had 2 timeouts left, and we were on the opposite end. And of course, we're not in the NBA, so I had to use one play to get us up a little bit past half court, and then call another timeout to drop the play, and we won the game on the buzzer. So it's like, then I have those situations where I'm like, well, I saved those timeouts and they came in handy.
Yeah. And the thing is, the Scrum Rule, here's my rule for people listening. My rule is if there's a loose ball or anything on the floor, we're getting it. And everyone needs to know we're going to get it and we're going to go with it. And we're not calling a timeout. So what I did this maybe 10, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. What it's done is we know that we're not calling a timeout. We also know that we got to go get the ball. So there's a sense of urgency that all of a sudden has gone from 3 to 9.
Right.
Because they know they get it.
They have that safety blanket of a timeout.
There's no safety blanket. I'm going to do this and then I'm going to call a timeout. There's none of that. And I bet we get 90% of those balls. I'm just telling it right now. I bet we get them and get them out.
That's definitely something, because I don't call a ton of them, but there's some where you're just like,
but the kids call them because they watch the NBA or they're watching this, and it's like, I got a loose ball in timeout. It's like there's 3 minutes into the game and you just burned a timeout for a loose ball. Who cares? Right. Yeah. Like, we travel, whatever. It's like, it's not that important. It's going to be more important down the stretch. I agree. I think those are valuable as far as yes, the retrospect. Like, I lost a game this year, and I told the kids after the game, and I've said this on a podcast, it's like we were up 2. One of my best players was shooting the second of a bonus, and there was 15 seconds left, and I was going to call timeout after he made it. We were up 3. We were going to foul. I should have called it after he made he was shooting 2 free throws. I should have called it after the first one. I didn't, and he missed it. He's like an 80% free throw shooter.
Yeah.
They come down, hit a 3, beat us in overtime. And I told the boys, I said, that was my fault. 100% my fault.
Yep.
I should have called a timeout. I made a mistake.
Yep.
I learned I will never do that again in my coaching career. I take that. That's me.
Right.
And it's like,
that's like what we talked about in the very beginning, is with the kids, is let them make the mistakes, but obviously as coaches we're going to make mistakes too, but then you just got to learn from them, right? So
I'm never doing that again. I'm
right.
Done.
Right.
I don't care. I'm not ice. The whole icing your own free throw shooter shit. I was never iced when I played. What are you talking about? No one iced me. Shit, you could have called 4 timeouts. I'm gonna go make my free throw. What are you doing? You're not icing me?
Right.
I'm not a punter or a kicker. Like, I'm not trying to kick a field goal.
And even that, like, that's still not even a thing. Like, if they were going to miss that field goal, they were going to miss the field goal. It had nothing to do with that. You called a timeout and made them sit there for 15 seconds and think about it.
Right. I agree. All right. All right. So I got a couple other things I want to talk to you about off air. So I'm going to do the rapid fire, and then we're going to pause.
Okay.
And I got the thing we were just talking about. I got it all ready to send to you. So I'm teasing all the people that are listening. Too bad. Sorry for you. All right. What's your favorite brand of basketball, the ball that you use?
I really enjoy the ball we're using now, that TF1000 Legacy. I like the Legacy a lot. Okay. Yeah. But I love the TF1000, that the previous one, like playing in it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just like that brand. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good ball. The only
Yeah.
problem I have with the Spalding, the TF series, is they don't last long.
Right. Yeah. Like we got those legacy ones this last year and they already look like they've been used for 4 years.
I know.
So it's like,
That's the only problem. I think
yeah,
it's a scam.
very
Yeah,
well could be.
it's
Yeah.
like because you got to keep buying them and they're
Yep.
expensive.
They sure are.
Yeah, they are. Favorite pregame or postgame meal?
I don't eat much before the game. Maybe sometimes I'll grab like a bag of Skittles from the concession stand or a hot dog, maybe some popcorn. And then after, I usually pick up just some McDonald's or Taco Bell for my wife on my way home.
Okay.
Nothing crazy. I'm not like, I don't have to get, I know I've heard you talk, you have to get your Chick-fil-A. But I don't have to get a certain thing.
10 o'clock, baby, right across Westtown Mall. You know where Westtown is. There wasn't a Chick-fil-A. We got a, so as a Madison person, so I know it's been a long time since we did, but we know where
I actually lived there for a couple of years. I worked at the finish line at Easttown, so I lived there for like 2 years.
The Sears at Westtown, the Sears like auto thing is gone, and there's a Portillo's there now.
Ooh, yeah, I got a Portillo's by us here because I went to school in Chicago, so I fell in love with Portillo's.
But the service, like they need to learn a lesson from Chick-fil-A because their service has been poor.
They always have been. Even in the Chicago stores, they're terrible. Takes forever.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not like I think Chick-fil-A is just, they set the standard when it comes to service. Like no one is even close to Chick-fil-A. Yeah.
Yeah. I got to go. And I went through the drive-through, or I pre-ordered. I should have just gone in. Next time I just got to go in. I think it's,
I usually, if I get Chick-fil-A, I usually pre-order and sit in this parking spot. They're usually pretty fast.
They're very fast. Yeah. Do you have any superstitions?
Like I won't wear, I obviously have so much like Cudahy stuff, pullovers, quarter zips, polos, whatever. Like I won't wear one if we just lost in that, like recently, or like if we, because obviously we play the conference twice. So like if I beat Brown Deer or lost to Brown Deer in this one, I won't wear that same thing. I try not to wear the same thing like 2 games in a row or 3 games in a row, switch up my shoes. So I'm actually kind of opposite. I don't wear the same, I don't do the same thing clothing wise. I do stand in the same place and say the same thing in my head for the national anthem.
I do that too. You're one of the few people that does that. I do too. I literally like, so I have some superstitions. Like I'm always the last one on the bus. There's just some things that I do, and I have to be the last one in the line for the national. I mean, there's just some things, and then a home. I think I start moving on home of the free. Home. There's a word I start moving. It's like there's just things I do. Do I think it has anything to do with us winning or losing?
No, of course not.
It's my mental, like I'm getting ready, like you know.
And I stand in a certain place when they're going through their handshake line. Like I stand off to the side near the refs and I put my arms behind my back and just stare at the floor and obviously think about what I'm going to quick talk to these starters about before the tip off. So it's just, like you said, it's nothing that like, if I don't wear this polo, we're going to lose, but it's just more of like, gets me mentally
I'll
ready.
give the coaches some advice to the young ones. If you're be the first coach in the shake hand line, because when you after a game, when you shake hands, you want to be number one. You don't want to be the last coach. You don't want last person. You want to be the first person, because then you're only shaking 15 hands of the opposing team. If you're the last person, you're shaking everyone on your team and their team's hand, because obviously it's a math problem. So be the first in line. You'll save it. You won't get as many colds during the season then.
I'm always the last one.
Yeah. So if you're last, you're shaking all your kids' hands too.
Oh, I don't shake their hands.
No. You do.
Though, I get what you're saying.
They've shaked the other kids' hands, and then they shake your hands.
Yeah.
So if you have a sick kid on your team, you're gonna get it.
But that was, I guess, now that we're talking, like that's also a ritual of mine. Was like win or loss, I take a slow walk to the back of the line and I shake my assistant's hand. Like good game, whatever the outcome was, and then we go shake the other team's hand.
Yeah, and then so you're shaking everyone on your teams because they've already shake the other kids' hands. So it's it's an exponential growth problem. Right. So anyway. So I'm not a germaphobe, people, but I'm just telling you, if you do that over an entire season, then all of a sudden, the problem is I have every kid on my team has their own water bottle. I buy them a Gatorade water bottle. I label it because I don't want them. You don't want the plague to go through your team because that's the worst thing ever.
Yep.
And like if you can't get sick. The captain of the ship can't get sick.
Right.
Describe your perfect player in 5 words or less.
A selfless leader who can shoot.
Ooh, I love that. That's good. Okay. You didn't even count. I usually count out loud. Best player you have seen in person.
Best player I've seen in person. Well, I'd have to put like Luke Fisher and Zach Showalter in the conversation. Excluding NBA, because I've been to some NBA games. I don't count those because obviously everyone would say those guys, but I'd probably have to say Deontay Burton from Vincent. Just the things he was able to do athletically.
How about Golden State having 2 Wisconsin guys passing to each other?
I know. I was rooting for a Miami Golden State final, so we'd have whoever, no matter who won, Milwaukee would win one.
I know, but Pooley's he's taking it to a different level.
He's so good.
I know. I gotta talk to Ghazi and get some stories on him. I know he was with him for a while, but anyway, yeah. And then we beat I think 2011 is when we beat Looney's team. We beat them in the semis, right? We beat them. He was a freshman at Hamilton.
Yep.
Yeah. You knew he was going to be good. I didn't know he was going to be that good, but I knew he was going to be good. Those Hamilton teams. Do you shot clock? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. I was against it in our state, just so you know. And the reason I was because they were only going to put it at the varsity level.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
I know. That's the reason I was all pissed off about it.
I just think if it's going to be in there, it's going to be in there.
But it wasn't. Anyway. It was just going to be varsity. And it's dumb. What the hell? We're only going to play with the 3-point line in the varsity games? If you're going to do it, my sophomores and freshmen need to practice it.
Right.
That was my whole point. It got squashed because the little schools didn't want to pay for it. That's why it got squashed. But I caused a ruckus because it's what are you talking about? Only varsity? No. We're either going to do it or we're not going to do it.
Right.
If we're going to do it, it's halves. You figure it out.
Yeah.
But that's where sometimes our state just what are you doing? You're not thinking. They're not going to play with it all summer. What are you talking about? Because you need another person at the table that they have to pay.
Yeah.
They're not going to do it all summer. What's your thought on the charge circle?
Yes. Yeah, I just think it gives it that, because if you get lower than the charge circle, I think it's dangerous for
I 100% agree with it. The only problem I have with the charge circle is they miss the 3-point line half the time anyway. And it's something else for them to watch. Just make a call, whatever. It's half the time it's a coin toss anyway. Right. Whatever. It's the first time in my coaching career I told a kid not to take charges was this year. Because I didn't have the depth and he took too many of them and he needed to play. He played 30 minutes a game. I said, I literally, and he was a freshman. I go, you cannot. Literally, I took that away from him. He was taking charges all the time. I go, you can't do that anymore. Stop.
Right.
And he looked at me I go, well, what? Because you have to play.
Yeah.
I don't have a bet. And it's no, stop. Now this year I'm going to be able to turn him back on because I got some players coming back. But it's wow. It's do you like the halves or you like quarters?
I don't notice a ton of difference. I think that 2 extra basically timeouts help.
That's what I meant. I wish they gave us one in the first half.
And then I have a kid who I kind of had to play most of the game, every game. Whereas if I played quarters, maybe I could have played him the entire game, every game, and not felt bad about it because I didn't have to worry about. No, he's in great shape, and every time I was like, "You need one?" He'd be like, "No, I'm good."
They'll always say that. They'll always say that.
Of course.
You have to pull everybody out playing 2 18-minute halves. You got to give them a minute or 2 rest.
Whereas those quarters, maybe you if you're in a tight game, you don't have to.
Right. Or the state tournament where there's a TV timeout every 4 minutes, you don't have to anymore. Yeah, I know. What about the jump ball?
I don't see the point. I think COVID proved that you don't need it.
Yeah,
they didn't
that's
do
my
the
theory.
anyway.
It needs to go away. It's just the
Yeah.
visiting team should get the ball. Let's go. Like,
Yeah, that's fine.
It's archaic.
You
in my opinion.
alternate possessions anyway.
Right, and they're horrible at throwing it. And when's the last time you practiced a jump ball?
Germantown.
Yeah.
Because a funny story is I probably watch it maybe once a year, but that dunk that Z had to start the game.
We knew that was coming. We knew
But
that
you're
was
right.
coming.
But they practice that play. Like we practice that play 10 minutes, probably twice a week.
Right. And we knew it was coming.
Tip to Josh, bounce pass to Z. Yeah. Because you have a 7-footer, so you're always going to win the tip.
Right.
But no, we never practice a tip. So it's no.
That's
and
why
neither do the reps.
Yeah, that's why it's an archaic, silly thing that it's, and everyone's argument is, well, it's like, well, no, there used to not be a 3-point line. There used to be a peach basket up there. What are you talking about? Like history and like, don't tell me that. All right. So last question I always ask is, do you have one bit of advice to your younger self, even though you're a puppy still? Do you have advice to your younger self?
And it's something I still got to do. So I guess I'm giving advice to my future self as well, but just get out into the coaching world more, which is kind of why I got into Teach Hoops, but get out to some clinics or network with other coaches. Cause like I've heard you say, and it's over all the time, but coaches are the best thieves. It's like, I didn't create my offense. I saw it from somebody else and took pieces of it and made something my own. But how many good things you're going to see at clinics or whatever, good people you're going to talk to, that might lead to another job down the line, or might lead to,
never knows what door is going to open. I know. I'm convinced of that. All right. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Coach, hope you're liking the video. If you are, kick down below. That would help us a ton. Hit the like button down below. If you want to subscribe, that'd be awesome. Hit the little bell up above. You'll get a notification every time one of our new videos goes live. Also, make sure you go over and check out teachhoops.com. Enjoy.